Boom. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are and whatever mind frame you may be in. My name is Samuel Davis III, and I am the host of Uplift Our Community podcast, powered by Bridge Visions. Let me ask you something. How many times have you said, I'm tired this week? Not just physically tired, I'm talking about that deeper kind of tired. The kind that sleep doesn't fix. The kind that sits in your chest, in your mind, in your spirit. Because what a lot of people are calling tired right now is actually survival mode. And here's the truth. Survival mode was never meant to be a permanent state. It's supposed to get you through something, not become the way you live your life. But for a lot of people, that switch never turned off. It's wake up, handle pressure, put out fires, manage stress, repeat, day after day. No real pause, no real reset. So now you got people who look like they're functioning, going to work, taking care of responsibilities, showing up for others. But underneath all of that, they're exhausted, mentally drained, emotionally stretched thin. And they don't even realize they've been stuck in survival mode for years. Today, we're going to break that down. What survival mode really looks like, why so many people are living in it, and more importantly, what it takes to get out of it. Because surviving will keep you alive, but it won't let you live. Here we go. Let me bring my folks in here and let's chat about this, guys. What you think about that? Jay, tell me what you think about what I said.
Man, I mean, you took my breath away with that statement. Survive. Make sure I got that right. Survival mode with what? Go on. What did you say?
I said, so what about survival mode?
Yeah,
You talking about
keep
the
you
opening?
alive.
It'll keep you alive, but it won't let you live.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
a lot of us. So, and I'll just kind of start it off, and I'll throw this opening question to you because, what does survival mode mean and actually mean in real life? Like living day to day just to get by, or like a single parent working two jobs and make every decision, you know, just to keep the lights on, those kind of things. So, what does to you, Jay? What does survival mode mean?
Well, I mean, it's interesting you should say that. I've been I've been just I guess I've been my bandwidth has just been too high for it's just dealing with so much stuff at one time, just trying to keep the sanity and keep afloat and what have you, because you have so many people depending on you, and you just find yourself just putting yourself last a lot.
Mm,
Okay, so it was especially being an entrepreneur and working with fighting hunger in the United States. You are so, I mean, it's put it this way: you're in such a state of mind and where it's literally feast or famine, where I'm able to help people.
mhm.
So I find myself in oftentimes where I see so much of my energy going out that there's really nothing coming in. So when I have to dig deep, it's almost like a zombie state at sometimes, because you're just
Mm.
going, you're just trying to keep moving, what have you, that way. So it's a bit of a challenge. So I'm working on it. That's all I can tell you.
Mm.
I'm working on it. And I know Benji's got all the answers, so I'm listening.
Oh, Benji, you hear that? He threw the gauntlet at you. What
Sure.
what does survival mean like for you in real life? What is survival mode, or do you even have it? Do you consider yourself a person that works in survival mode.
Yeah, that is true. But the thing is, when you're in survival mode, you're not aligned with your divinity. That's the thing.
Mm,
When you are not
mm,
aligned to God and God plan, you in survival mode. Because we were born to thrive, not like this. So neither you're feeding your ego, which is survival, or you're feeding your soul, which is God. So that's where the alignment got misconnected. So this is back to what we were talking about in so many our conversation. Are you thriving for your goal, like your ego? You're gonna grow your ego some more. You're gonna grow your soul, and all of us went through that path. All of us, especially men,
mm,
career, entrepreneurship, doing all this stuff, right? But is that good for your soul? Is that good for your ego? And that's a tough thing, right? So when I'm in survival mode, it's because I'm not listening to what God has asked me to do. The
mm,
anxiety and all that. So
mm. Okay. Wow. That's actually a tough one. Because how do you know you're in survival mode though? How do you know you're actually stuck in it?
anxiety, anxiety, you stress, anxiety, you stress. And it's like so for me it's really, really simple. I think there's a phrase called let go, let God. And
Mm-hmm.
so this is back to like when I'm stressed, I'm losing my phone. I got two phone, three phone. I'm losing my phone. I'm losing my place. Do you know what I said? This is my best friend gave it to me. She's like, just says, thank you, Jesus. Like 100% of the time, things resolve by
Mm,
itself, right?
mm,
But yet, when I am survival mode, I get that anxiety, right? So
mm,
lately, I was moving, I'm driving, going to places like that, things like that. And I, of course, I misplace things and items and things. I get upset, anxiety, but everything is returned to me.
mm,
It's like eventually, right? So that's the anxiety thing. A business perspective, relationship perspective, right? I have anxiety about not being able to be with my mate and all this stuff. Like, but I'm like, I surrender to what God asked me to do, and then I have no anxiety, and that is much more of like I am like trusting and having faith in what my divinity is because I'm in the right path, and I know that is because I see the indicator that I'm in the right path. This is what I'm supposed to be doing right at this moment. So and when I stop breathing short, then no anxiety, then I know that I'm away from that mode. But in business, it's hard. As a human, your default mode is survival. You're a dude. You learn to fight young, and you in that mode all the time, especially in
mm,
business. Things like that. So it's a natural thing. The question is like, there's some point where that, like you hear a story, people like when they're in emergency or whatever, anxiety, whatever, they can lift a car. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like, hey, I can't
mm,
do this today. Can you send this to God? Can we do this? And things get done.
mm. I think that I think what you're saying, Benji, what I think is important too, a lot of returning residents, those coming out of prison systems and things
Hmm.
like that, they're in survival mode because that's what they've been stuck in for the
Hmm.
longest. They've been their focus has because I've seen it, I've worked it, I've worked with those individuals who, they come into the prison system, and first thing they got to do is figure out where they're standing at, what their place is in this prison system. Then they start to maneuver and start to manipulate things. Some of them,
Hmm.
they look for they're either manipulating people or they're being manipulated by people.
Hmm.
And there's a survival mode that they're in when you're in that prison environment. Um, like I said, that probably one of the biggest things to me, and I've said it countless times here, working in the prison system has given me such a great insight with dealing with individuals, working with people, and getting a better understanding of who I am, um, because I actually really stuck with. I came with the mindset I wanted to help somebody, and I stuck with it, and it just kept on. It was just something that stuck with me. I wanted to always continue to be on it. So I'm asking the question, and I'm going to ask the question because the question that I asked was, how do you know when you're stuck in survival mode?
I got a story that it just came to me that I remember going out. on a date a few months ago. And she's really familiar with my my schedule. I'm always putting out fires, what have you. And she, we met up for dinner, and the first thing she did was just give me a hug, right? And I'm like, okay, get the hug, and I'm letting go, and she wouldn't let go, and she said, "We got to rewire your nervous system. We got to put you in the now." And she said, "We're gonna hug for 2 minutes, just hug, right?" And I'm thinking, okay, this is a lot for McDonald's, but no, it was a really cool picnic. We're doing that. So, but and I thought, I was thinking there's a little bit of that, hippies kind of thing, and I had to admit, I started feeling better because I was always planning ahead, ready to put out the next fire. Okay, we're gonna do this. I'm just running through the experiences I was having. I'm just rushing to get through them so I can get to the next thing. So being forced to be in and out, I could actually feel myself calming. Just actually feel myself relaxing. Actually feel myself looking around in my environment and being happy that I was right there. Okay. And it was sobering because I'm thinking, how much of my life am I just racing through? I stopped smelling the roses, and that was just like, I know there's more life behind me than ahead of me, so it's like, how many, I have to make sure that I take the time to put the joy back in this existence, for the experience of being here and living and knowing people, So to have that moment where I had to do a 180, it was very sobering. It was very, in your face, and I'm very thankful for that experience too.
That's what I call a soft reset. When you get into that point, it's some people they do that by meditating in the morning. And they get into that zone where they actually reset, just like they call eating breakfast. You break, and you're breaking fast. You're breaking the fast. It's that same thing. It was actually a really good thing that you sat back and actually said that, you recognize that, because there's a lot of people like as you mentioned, we're just running on fumes. Get up in the morning and start running from the moment they get up to the time to go to bed. They are all about moving, and not necessarily reflecting on what I accomplished just last night, what I accomplished just waking up this morning, what I need to get myself going right. And that's a really big thing. My question was to you, Jay, how many minutes or seconds in was it before you were like, whoa, this is a little weird? And when did you feel like, was it about a minute and 15 seconds in? Because that's a long time.
It is, and at one point it was an eternity, because you just want to hug, you get a hug, boom, and wow, you just move, you go about your business. But when I tried to let go and she held on, I'm like, what? I was kind of surprised. And then it, everything was it was just zoomed in, just her and myself, just be here. She told me, she's like, sometimes when we talk, I hear your mind always working on the next thing for us, whatever project and all that. So I can hear it, and I think, for like maybe 35, 45 seconds of that, it's just like, okay, this is silly. I'm just running out the clock. And then I'm just like, okay, I'm actually on a date, a wonderful human being. I'm just enjoying being here. Why just let myself actually enjoy being there? Actually, just enjoy this company, and this conversation, and this just moment of silence. I guess there was a part of me that, especially if you deal with a lot of people, those moments of silence can seem to be eternity. So I'm always filling the void, just talking, talking, get to the next thing, because it's usually good to get projects accomplished. Everybody's keeping move, keeping things moving. But it made me think about it, even when I'm working on some of my inventions or what have you, or I have this tech project that I'm really trying to figure out how to make it work, or I look at my life, and this is 54 years of life. The happiest I'm outside of my daughter being born and seeing her grow. The happiest I am is when I'm truly using my purpose, when I'm creating. And there's no crowds around, there's no applause, there's no hundreds of people to, help out or do this and that. It's a Friday night. I may have my glue gun and maybe trying to figure out how to just do a little bit of welding here, well, soldering. And I'm just like, I am thrilled. I'm like the same kid when I was 14, 13 years old and get the video game system, I'm in my purpose, and I'm just absolutely, I can't be more present than that. It's just, that's where I live, and I'm thinking about the grand clock of life. If your whole life was just that 1 hour, okay, just 1 hour, your entire existence, I look at those moments of happiness that bring me peace, and I'm thinking we're talking just seconds of everything that I have to deal with, pay bills, get the car fixed, help out family, do this and that. And we're all this existence, all this time, all these people I get to meet, and my peace comes down to a few seconds. And I know I have to work on that. That's one of my personal journeys, is to work on that.
Let me ask you this before I jump over and ask and relate the same question to Benji. With what you just said, is there somewhere else? I mean, a 2-minute hug can seem pretty intense. Is there anywhere else that you see in your life where you can apply that, like giving time towards in preparation before doing something similar to that hug? Is there something else? Is there somewhere else in your life where you see that you can do that?
I really, Alexa and I are very tight. Okay, so just between Alexa and Google, my home AI stuff. So I love music and cleaning at home at the same time. Okay, because I grew up in a Black Pentecostal household. Saturday mornings or what have you, you get out of bed, mom's got the gospel music playing or some oldies got stuff going on, what have you, and you're cleaning, buddy, and like my home office, it looked like it probably looked like a Best Buy, just blew up in here. But outside this safe space, the rest of my place is immaculate, so it just, I love, it's a form of meditation for me.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a form of meditation. It just, I get a chance to sit back at the end of that and just like, I love those first few minutes when I walk into my home and I have a little jazz playing, a little Dave Brubeck Take 5 or what have you, and especially I have my salt lamps. I got the mood set, and I'm just like, I'm so happy to be here. My home is a place of peace. And if anybody's ever been in a situation where coming home was a nightmare, where you just like, you stayed in that parking lot for, you just did not want to go inside, for me, it's a beautiful place to be. And I am so thankful for that. Bills are paid for the most part. I got a roof over my head. I have a great community behind me. And it's just, I am very blessed, and I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah. Benji, I want to ask that same question to you. Do you feel that you mentioned meditation earlier? Do you meditate yourself? Do you find yourself meditating at certain times or to relieve stress? How does that How do you go about for yourself?
That's usually early in the morning. I haven't been able to do sustaining as I got older. That's harder. When I was younger, it was really easy to do. Uh, but it's no different. Like when you get in a zone, when you're running, you're painting, you're creating music, you're in that zone. That's really meditation. So when I create music and writing, I'm in that space. So it doesn't take an audience. Like it's quiet time. Those are the joy I have in this world. So when I'm able to produce something and do things that I really enjoy, those come very rarely because it really have no outside. It just came from inside. So those are the key thing. Those are the thing. I'm different in the sense like I really don't like home. I can't stand home. It's just one of the most for me food and things like that just disgust the crap out of me. But it's necessary to live, right? And people love that kind of stuff. So I'm happy that you feel like a kingdom, like have a house as a kingdom. For me, I feel like if I have a house, I feel like it's a prison to me, right? All my
Mm,
life I've been that way. So every house I pay for people, I buy for people. I'm going to buy one for my grandkids probably at some point. But for me, I feel trapped. I really, I just, I do. I never feel completely free with that. I'm on the road 99% of the time. I'm the most happiest I've been. Things like that. For me, when I can't pack in 45 days and get on a plane, it really bothers me. And which is this is where I'm at right now in my life right now because
wow.
I actually enjoy being out there in the road and doing things. Uh, but when I have too many things that burden me, like for example, so I have three set of business like suit that I wear back and forth between this project and the other project. So there's like basically 9 set of I got to pack for each week, right? So for me, I'm like, that's way too much. I got to narrow that down to like 2 set or something, because I got to be more effective and things like that. But yeah, but it doesn't take much for me to do what I do. Like I remember when we were training for marathon, everybody went and got out and fancy clothes and shoes and stuff. Man, I'm in my jean cut off jeans with my regular tennis shoe. I'm running 20 miles. I'm like, I don't know what you guys are doing, man. I'm like, this is just running. So for me, that's how life is. Keep it more simple for me and things like that. But I do appreciate like people like have a like I live in in the country, but now I'm in another house right here. Suburban life, gorgeous, like beautiful pool, beautiful yard and things like that great and all, but man, that's just a lot of time that I just don't, want to do a lot with, like things like that to me. Like I used to have a pool when I was younger, but I spent so much time cleaning those pools. Just okay, I'm done with this. so, so the meditation is really just working. Like if I'm in my code or whatever it is, I'm like literally in my zone. I don't even think about it. Like when I'm designing things or coding things, I'm just completely in the zone.
So
You,
so
you,
so Benji, I want to ask you, because you mentioned that you're not comfortable being in a home.
No, never have. I've never
Really?
have. Yeah, it's like my my house are in Texas are roughly about most of the houses are around 600,000. A big home. These are big home. We're talking 4,000 square feet home and things like that. And
Mhm.
you fill it with furnitures and all this stuff. My best friend before he passed, he bought this godly house. It's like four season. Like I mean, literally, you have to yell at each other to get each other to notice. It's upstairs, downstairs. It's huge. He can't even walk upstairs because his knee was so bad. You know,
Oh,
I
man.
appreciate it, but I'm like Brian. It's like we don't need this, man. It's like if I need this, if I want something like this, I go back to Four Seasons. I mean, things like that. But the point is like I rather have the flexibility of traveling and doing things that I do. One of my joy. I remember I was in Stenson Beach, just up there by San Francisco, by
Mhm.
Half Moon Bay and all that stuff. And I rented this cute little cabin to write. I mean, it was like a little cottage, and it's just to write. And it was quiet. It's the hippie thing, and I really miss that part of me. Things like that for sure.
Mm.
But for example, like the modern houses, like I get frustrated. I'm like, why do I need a Wi-Fi on this oven? Like where would I need a Wi-Fi to start this oven to cook a roast? It's like I'm sitting in the middle of I-35 in Austin, Texas. I don't care about my roast at this point. I just want to get through the traffic, you know. But people would think that is really cool. I'm sitting here going, for me, it's like it's a burden because at some point that thing's gonna break. I have animals at the house. If something go wrong, the house get on fire, my dog would die. No, we're not doing this. So to me, it's a really burden, right, to have those kind of
Mm.
things. And so and things like that. That's a big and the other thing too, I can't stand doors, right? It's like these houses have doors everywhere, right? I'm like, it's like it like I when my first only home that ever owned, I took all the door out, including the bathroom door. It's like I just can't stand it because I'm here to be able to flow and do things, you know. And so my guests would come like I would have to put a little thing there for the bathroom just because, you know, guests can't gotta have a door. So I had to learn.
Boy,
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm
let me go.
like, what idiot you? What's going on?
Yeah, so I was like, you know, I had to one of those things that you can sleeve it open and close, you know. So you know, you do. I'm you know, like but I couldn't handle that. Like I remember my first kitchen, I took all the door off because I'm like, I don't. It's like I organize my kitchen, you know, like plate and stuff like that. It's like, why would you need a you know to hide these things? And then I realized what American do, which is most American, they stuff everything and they hide it behind the door. I'm like, it's not organized. It's just stuff in there. I'm like, okay, this is not going to work, you know. So it's all
Yeah.
things like that. So, but that's why I love living in a hotel. It's just so minimum and things like that for me.
You know,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Billy,
No,
I
no,
didn't like that,
no,
but
go ahead.
you know, I worked for a few years on the road, so
Yeah.
I was part of a task force for agricultural companies.
Yeah.
So we you know specialize in fixing network infrastructures,
Mhm.
sure the communications with you know with headquarters were going. I even had these classes where I taught people taking the fear out of technology. You know that we found out there was a lot of issues with. Especially dealing with rural employees, they were so scared of breaking their computers that actually took away from their productivity. Okay,
Mhm.
so I spent a few years on the road. I'm talking about I would wake up in the morning in St. Louis, and I legitimately did not know where in the country I would be that night. Okay,
Mhm.
Mm.
so you know it was a dream come true for a while. You know, because you
Mhm.
know I'm, I'm flying all over the country. Not they had no concerns about the food budget, no concerns about the travel budget because they just wanted us there when those emergencies happened or what have you. Okay, so it was had a blast, but I think it hit me where when I woke up in a hotel. I think I was in Nashville at the time. But you know how they have the blackout curtains and all that?
Mhm. Mhm.
It wasn't like I was drinking or anything, but I was just exhausted. I had no idea where I was in the country,
Mhm.
you know, and I
Mm.
was so burnt out doing it,
Mhm.
you know. It was just I said, you know what, this is run thin. It's run thin,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
because I think that's one of the things where I have people that I have to ask from time to time, do I like being at home too much? You know, do I like
Mhm.
being at home too much?
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
it's just like it's where I love there was a point where, you know, I was thinking about, okay, you know, we're working on a big project, so I have to, you know, look more to commuting back between here and LA.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, okay, so am I gonna just put my stuff in storage? Am I gonna keep this place here or just, you know, work the back and forth or whatever? Or maybe we'll find somebody to, you know, sublease the place too. And I'm thinking, what I'm gonna do with my stuff? This is where I keep all my stuff in my place, right? You know?
Mhm.
So it blew my mind where, okay, I love my safe space. Okay.
Mhm.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
it's like as long as the money was right, this is one thing
Mhm.
I always said. As long as the money was right, I could live in a paper box, you know,
Mhm.
cardboard box. I could live in as long as the money was right. Okay.
Mhm.
So I find it now because it's like I see we're like at different ends of the spectrum there. So I find
Mhm.
your point of view on that, you know, you're very enlightening. you know. So
Yeah.
it's just it's interesting to see how that plays
Yeah,
out.
but there's no right and wrong though. Like
Yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
example, yeah, but for example, it's like I'm wired this way. I actually enjoy this, right? But you're right. I have wake up sometimes no idea where I'm at, right? And I'm pretty good at knowing my situation. But it happens so many times because I'm so used to it. Remember, I've been doing this for 40 years, so I get it, right? But the thing is, it's like, but we have one basic requirement. Like we need oxygen for sure. We need some food and we
Mhm.
need some shelter. These are things that like we can't do without. So it's for me, I don't want to attach to all those things besides I gotta have some air, right? Things are things like for example, like this is back to like, are you feeding your ego? Are you feeding your soul? Like
Mm,
our soul is in this avatar, this spaceship called this body, right? So
mhm.
so like when we feed our ego, which is what we've been talking about, it's like how much high in food do I gotta take to feed this ego? How much alcohol do I gotta feed this ego when it doesn't do anything for my soul, right?
Mhm.
Things like that. Things like it's like okay, so this is one of the things that I finally understood what the Buddha was saying. A lot of time, this is back to I think I mentioned this. The Buddha won't take apprentice if they're over 35 years old, and we always wonder why, and we never understood it because our ego get too strong at that
Wait.
point.
He said what
Yeah.
at 35 years old?
They won't take an apprentice that's over 35 years old.
Oh, wow. Too set in
Yeah,
their ways?
yeah, right.
Mm,
And I took offense to that. 'Cause no, no, no. It it's true. As you get over that certain age, you become so egotistic, right? Your ego and your pride took over. I'm like,
mm,
they're right. But if we can, it doesn't mean you can adjust, but they're right, right? So
mm,
I've like kind of after like seriously after landmark, it hit me. Oh my lord, I am in that path, right? So how do I reverse that part of it? Because my soul's still here.
mm,
My soul can still navigate this spaceship, right? This avatar called Benji frame, right? I can still do that. I can create the life that I'm looking for. This is what I say after like landmark. I know I can create the story that I want to be the fishing story of my book of this movie, right?
mm,
Because I have that autonomy. Now, is it going to be like easy? No, because I have so much baggage I got to clean up. All the movie I create until now, I got to edit all the bad stuff out
mhm,
and reshoot some of the newer scene. That's really all it come down to. So this thing that we mentioned about like, okay, how are we going to navigate like AI and all this business? That's just business.
mm,
How do we make this new new business with AI more to our life? For me, it worked well better for me because AI helped me to do the mundane thing that I hate, right? So
mm,
okay, let's leverage that in the right way and create the life that you're looking for, things like that. And these
mm,
are things that for me is important. Now, let's take it back to what, Mr. Harris was talking about, the be in the moment thing. 2 minutes a big deal, right? So I have the same thing. So
Mhm.
my person, she and I have the same agreement. 30-second hug, that's it. Because I can only last 30 seconds, right? And
mm,
so for me, that was a practice, right? Right. And then before we leave, we also kiss for 6 seconds. That was the minimum I could handle.
mm,
So that moment right there, 6 seconds, is a lifetime for me, right?
mm,
That 30-second is a lifetime for me. You know, I don't hug my kids 30 seconds. I don't hug my grandkids 30 seconds. they they're not even, they are not even allowed to take a picture of me, because
mm,
I've been so like away from that, from being in the moment. I don't think even like because Brooklyn and I was talking, I was like, there is like one picture of us, of she and I together. That's it.
Mm.
mm,
Can you
mm,
imagine how crazy that is? I'm thinking about this. I'm like, we're gonna change that, and like and things like that. Like it's like you mentioned, like we always go to the next thing, and like, yeah, that's who we were. We were feeding that ego.
mm. So I want to ask both of you because we may have asked this before, and we're definitely far off of what the subject matter was what we were talking about. But both of you, extrovert, introvert, ambivert, which one do you consider yourselves? I'm just curious because I know that, and we may have even brought this up the last time we spoke. Um, there is a certain thing when as I'm growing and as I am learning to become a better person and working on myself, I recognize that I don't necessarily want to or have that feeling to hang with those individuals that I used to hang with a lot. So I don't I'm not going to say that that's turned me into an introvert, but because of my level of growth and those individuals that I used to hang around with that I don't hang around with anymore, I don't feel that desire to hang around them because I don't have as many new friends as I need. So with that being said, I'm just curious, Jerome, Jay, and even you, Benji, is it because you is it are you an introvert that just feels like you want to be in the home all the time more so, or is it just that you just taking people out of your life and that you know, both of you seem very happy to be on your own and by yourselves. So with that being said, how do you feel about that? Introvert, extrovert, Jay?
Well, all right. I'm curious here. Define ambivert for me. That's a new one for me.
So ambivert is
today's word of the day is ambivert.
I'm Googling right now.
I'm trying to pretend like I know. Here we go.
So you know what an extrovert is?
Yes, sir. A person that's outgoing, right?
Okay. You know what a introvert is?
A person that's like to keep themselves very ingoing or what have you. Okay.
And an ambivert is a person that, like, for instance, I consider myself an ambivert. Sometimes I can be alone and I can be productive and do things. And there's other times I kind of need a little energy. I like to hang around people. I like to trash and engage and talk smack. So I can be alone, or I can be I can be with others. I can get energy either way. Sometimes it's too much energy, as we've discussed before. But so when I say ambivert, it's I can hang around a lot of energy, a lot of people, and move, or I can be by myself and I can still do things and get things complete. Can you, if you were involved with a lot of people or around a lot of people, can you function properly with a lot of people around you versus not having a lot of people and being on your own?
My community work, I have to be around a lot of people, and I out of necessity, I learned to thrive with that. But my nature, and I get a lot out of it, honestly. The interaction with the people that come to our shares, our community meetings, and what have you, or get-togethers, it's very fulfilling. I love talking to people, especially my senior groups. They're hilarious. They have no filter. You love talking to. I get energy from that. Now, do I have a stopwatch going? Not necessarily, but it goes off for a while where I'm just like, you know what? I might have over peopled it a little bit. So I need to kind of get back into myself. So that can happen. That can happen. So however you want to define that,
I want to before I go, I want to post this right here. I got my I guess I call my little niece here, Amira. She's running. She said, I agree with that, Uncle Sam. As I step into motherhood, I'm finding I no longer fit in with my old crowd and look for more time with my family. P.S. Love these podcasts.
Hello, Amira. I like it.
Yeah. So with that being said, Benji, how about yourself? Do you consider yourself introvert, extrovert, ambivert? How do you feel? And being and don't forget about the fact that you like taking doors off. So let's
yeah. I'm the only child, so I don't like attention too much. So I rather like my heaven spot is sitting in the corner of the bar by myself with my favorite bartender. That's like my favorite spot, right? I miss that so much. to me, that's the most intimate thing I've ever been. My adopted daughter, Brittany, it was my bartender, and we have the most intimate conversation, just the two of us, right? And it was just like I missed the part of that being, but I have this button that I can turn on because I do pre-sale work sometime for Salesforce, right? So I can turn that on really quickly, and that's a charm I got from my mother. I have that in me when I turn that on. But ultimately, though, back to the subject of survival mode. This is actually where we are. When you can't create energy of yourself and you have to like pull energy from other people, you are in survival mode. So I'll give you an example of why that's so clearly for men we have to unlearn to do. Remember, we were born from our mother, and the first person we take energy from is our mother. You know, that umbilical cord thing, you got to cut that cord thing that people talk about. Okay.
Mhm.
So this is where the teaching, the East is a little distinct from what we're talking about. That's the reason for me, I want to cut that cord as much as quickly as possible. I
Mm,
don't want to be dependent of a woman energy. So
mm,
what's the other cord that we create when we do that? When we have sex with a woman. So we automatically connect to her until she cut us off. So
mm,
this is where that is really important. This is where I express to my kids and my grandkids, when you have a lot of mate and you're female, every time you connect with a male, you that faucet is turned on, right?
mm,
So there's time that you have to understand. You got to learn how to turn off that faucet, and men got to be able to learn to generate their own power. So when we are men in survival mode, that's why men do what they do. It's like imagine these people that have sex with young people. That's what they're doing, is pulling energy from young people. And the
mm,
young people have the most energy because they're so pure. Imagine the pure energy of like a newborn, right? That's exactly what happened, right?
mm.
So, but yes, so we are talking about survival mode. We're talking about all that. So that's a responsibility.
Mm. Very powerful thing you brought up when you said sex.
Hmm.
That was when you're younger, definitely when I was younger, that was
Hmm.
a power move for me,
Hmm. Hmm.
growing up, being that I was a young single guy getting into the military, leaving home
Hmm.
for the first time,
Yeah.
hanging out in the streets on my own, with nobody telling me to stop sex was huge,
Hmm.
big thing.
Hmm.
It wasn't until later on, and as we're drifting away from our subject, but
Hmm.
it's important that we have those conversations,
Hmm.
in particular about sex. Um, it was a driving force for me for a while until I actually had I'm not gonna call it a come to Jesus moment, but it hit me that what am I doing? And a lot of it was trouble, because a
Hmm.
lot of it was self-centered.
Hmm.
A lot of it was self-centered. So
Yeah.
um sex is a very powerful thing. It's a very powerful thing, particularly when you're younger.
Yeah,
Um,
but it's still survival mode. This
yeah,
is what I'm saying. So this is the still
yeah,
so
yes.
think of who are the most richest people right now, and guess where they got that power from? Right, because they're taking power from other people from that
Mm,
sexual encounter. Look at like Epstein. What's that? The God's in jail. The rapper Sean Daddy Puff, whatever. So he's
yeah.
another one. So instead of creating your own power, you are just sucking power from other people, like you do with your mother when you're connected to her, right? That to me was like I knew from the day one I want to be out of that so badly. I don't know
Mm,
why, but my instinct was so clear on that one, and that was even before I was at the temple. At the temple, they talk more about like you have as a male learn to cultivate your own energy instead of taking
mm,
from other people, and that
mm,
was a thing that I didn't well, quite understood because I was like 4, 5, 6 years old. I'm like, what are you talking about, Buddha? It's
mm,
like I'm not
mm,
getting this right now. But as I got older, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing exactly what they were talking about. Now, explain to me, how does a Buddha know this when they are celibates, right? I'm
mm,
like, they pretty much live their life that way. So there was some teaching from the past that taught all that stuff, and I'm like, wow. And it's more of like the old teaching instead of the new teaching. So it was interesting for sure. I just
mm,
remember them when I was there.
mm. I hear that. Jay, you got any comment on that right there?
Well, I think you guys hit something between the two of you. I thought was quite fascinating. Reminded me of even we were talking about for us the sex aspect of things and
Mhm.
how much like too much energy one way or another.
Mhm.
And let's get back to the survival mode
Mhm.
with the original deal.
Yeah.
Is that they said when you come together with a person,
Mhm.
it's like when you put
Mhm.
two pieces of tape together, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So that first bond, it's strong, it's deep.
Yep.
That's the young love or what have you. Okay.
Yep.
But the problem is when people try, they're not really in their true self and knowing where they are, where they want to be.
Mhm.
They're not fulfilled.
Mhm.
They just keep like tape sticking to different people
Yep.
over and over
Yep.
and over.
Yep.
And then after a while, there's no adhesion at all. It just you don't
Correct.
connect to anything.
Yep.
You burn yourself out. Okay.
Yep.
So it's I think it's very important, especially when you're self-aware, to
Mhm.
know that you are burning yourself out. You have to recenter your energy and your purpose. Okay.
Mhm.
You have to recenter that. You have to know that if you're gonna be with somebody, I think the casual part is kind of what got you there. You get burnt out. So
Mhm.
you have to be conscious of having meaningful connections.
Yeah.
Hopefully somebody you can really share a long-term real relationship with.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
with that being said, because I don't want to. I mean, we're closer to that hour time frame, but I don't want to leave people hanging. So I have to ask you this, and I'm going to ask both of you this. Jay, have you recentered your energy, and how difficult was that for you? And I want to ask that same thing to you, Benji, as well. But Jay, since you brought it up about recentering your energy, there are a lot of people that I know, they ain't recentering nothing. I know what I'm doing, and I'm right all the time. So there ain't nothing about recenter, because what I say goes. I'm the man. I pay the bills. There ain't nothing. Have you recentered yourself? And do you have do you feel that you how do you go about recentering yourself?
Oh wait, that's the next episode. I'm the train wreck right now. What? Next.
I mean, you brought it out. You brought it up. So,
Well, I call it course correction, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I call it course correction because it's just
Cool,
like you
cool.
find you're going down a certain path.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you did that, and now you got to, you got to double back, okay, so you can get yourself back on track. I'm in the middle of not only 2 television projects, but I have a community organization that is being studied, and they want to replicate it in different parts of the country. And they're working. We're actually tooling out for another PBS special. They want to do more about it. So I'm, late nights, early mornings. So I'm in the zone, part of the purpose. But I do know that when I get through this hurdle, and maybe that's the wrong way to do it, maybe it's the wrong way to think about it. Feel free to comment down on below, y'all.
Mhm.
But it's that when I get a chance to breathe again, when I can get these projects out the way and get that in the rearview mirror, the first thing I want to do, I want to go on a vacation. Okay, like I got a chance to do Istanbul last year. I think I want to do Marrakesh this year. Or perhaps I want to do Egypt. Cairo specifically. But I love going to different countries, or even it can be different parts of this country, or it could happen at the Starbucks. Okay, but I love meeting new people and experiences and sharing those things. That helps me reset myself. It helps me. It keeps me humble. It lets me know that we're all children of God, of the universe, however you want to say that, and that we're different points of light from the same source. So that helps me, and that puts me in the right frame of mind, I believe.
All right. Thank you for that. Benji,
Mhm.
go ahead. Talk to me, man. Tell me, have you recentered your energy, and how do you go about recentering your energy?
It's a constant thing, right? The first thing would be something like we've been through with Landmark. That's part one, right? But the other part is that's the thing that is a little different, where that there's a ceremony for cord cutting that I do, especially when I'm in a new relationship. So I had to cut the cord from all the exes, right? And it's constantly recutting over and over again because the energy is so strong, especially my first wife. We're talking 30 plus years ago. I consistently have to cut that because I still feel that, right?
Mm.
So, like, and so if I don't do that consistently, it's like weed in the garden, it come back, and then the issue come back to the next person, and I have to continue cutting. And I recognize that because, oh my gosh, I remember this, I've done this before, right? And that deja vu moment, I realized. So it's a very simple prayer,
Mm.
it's really all it is. But essentially, you visualize the cord being cut because you are attached to that woman, right? So like, let's say that you have many mates. You connect, especially strong ones, especially for me with marriages and so forth. I still connected. So I visualize the cord cutting and I say I pray to it. And that's really it. That's part of that, and that's really important for me because if I'm going to get remarried again and all that stuff, even in dating again, I have to cut it because if I don't, the energy flow right back to me, things like that. And being a male, back to the conversation about survival mode, when the current situation is tough, guess where I get my energy from? I go back to this source and try to navigate that. It doesn't work that way. So that's the reason you got to learn to cultivate that energy yourself. So,
Yeah, you know what, Benji? I love what you said about that because, especially you dealing with ex relationships or what have you.
mhm,
I had a great piece hit me,
yeah.
and I understood that I could love from a distance.
Mhm,
It's like I don't have to be checking, make sure you're okay, and doing this, because people, things happen to them. They don't react well. They don't handle it well.
mhm,
But I know that I can't live my life and yours, especially if you're in a
mhm,
state where they're maybe dealing with addiction or
mhm,
mental health issues or what have you. And it was very important for me to know that I was allowed to take care of me. I
mhm,
was allowed to take care of me, and it goes back into some people would think it's selfishness. It's just like anything else. Like anything else, it's all about the the perspective of what you're trying to accomplish.
mhm,
I just wanted to make sure that I could recharge my spirit, so
mhm,
I could be able to be of good to myself. If I'm
mhm.
good to myself, then I'm able to give good, healthy energy to the people that's in my
Yeah,
life. Yeah.
yeah. And I'll add to that. For me, I had to be very cautious of that because in the beginning of especially my career, I use sex to create, right? And
Mhm.
it's like that's an easy thing to do because it's a strong energy. So you manifest through that, right? So the idea is like, this is what my current situation with my partner with Imani is like. Imani, I don't want to do this way. I would like as minimum as possible. Everything that we got together have to come through me, not through you. Okay. And but there's time, there's like I said, she can tell that I'm really worn down. We're talking about survival mode, right? That's a thing. You still need that pampering and nurturing at some point. But at some point, this is where like you gotta be as a male step up to be the king you are. If you're truly gonna be the king and find your queen, you gotta be able to do that. So for me, that was a lesson that was like that was part of my design, my divine design. That's what it's all about, right? So that's come down to that. But yeah, I've been very aware of that. Right now, things are really, really hard. You know what? Seriously, if if I truly want to be that grand successful again, literally just having sex with as many people as possible, and then that will happen. But it's back to the same back it was. It's not fulfilling again, right? It's
Right.
constant. It's like you mentioned about attaching, right? It's like at some point it's just there's no
Yeah.
intimacy to it,
Yeah.
right? So it's just energy. It's like that's really all it is. You just take and take. So and that's a tough thing. And it's like that's a thing that we're talking about, and that's survival mode, like you said. We want to get out of that mode as much as we can. We don't meant to be like that.
Yeah,
Well, well
and lots of times those energies stick with you. And
Mhm.
sometimes
Yeah,
those energies
residual, yeah.
continually when you always wonder about why I'm always worried about that person all the time, and
Mhm,
why is that person
mhm,
on my mind? Because
yeah,
that energy that you two have join together, it's there.
Yeah.
So with that being said, we can definitely keep up talking about that all day long, but I'm going to go ahead and close this out right here, folks. So
Yeah.
we also
Ooh, I want to talk more. All right, go.
we also have our app that has been available. We are currently working on the app, our app launch party. We have our app on the Apple
Yay.
Apple Store and on Android as well. So
Nice.
with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Let me just here's what I want to leave you with. Being tired all the time isn't normal, even if it's common. A lot of people have been carrying survival mode for so long that it starts to feel like identity. But that's not who you are. It's what you are adapted to. And at some point, you got to ask yourself a real question. Am I living, or am I just getting through the day? Because there's a difference. Survival mode will push you, protect you, and even produce results, but it will also drain you if you never step out of it. So the work becomes this: start creating moments where your life isn't driven by urgency, fear, or pressure. Even small shifts matter. Even a little space to breathe matters, because that's where clarity comes from. That's where clarity comes back. That's where creativity comes back. That's where you come back. You deserve more than just getting by. You deserve to actually feel your life again. Until next time, keep uplifting yourselves, keep uplifting each other, and keep uplifting our community. Thank you.